Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, news of a secret meeting between Sudan and Israel as the two countries discuss normalising relations is met with dismay by Palestinians. Also, it's tough going in Lagos for former motorcycle taxi drivers and their ex-customers as the Nigerian commercial city gets used to a newly implemented ban on the so-called Okadas and Keke. And teachers of an Ivorian 13-year-old who sadly died last month trying to stow away on a plane that landed in Paris are trying to warn his classmates off of taking similar risks. But first, Israel and Sudan have agreed to try to normalise relations. On the sidelines of a visit to Uganda's leader Yoweri Museveni, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also held a secret meeting in Entebbe on Monday with Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, head of Sudan's Sovereign Council. In 1967, Arab states gathered to issue the three no's: no recognition of Israel, no peace with Israel, and no negotiations with Israel. So that could be set to change for Sudan, and Palestinians have already said that the overtures are a stab in the back. Michael O'Hagan joins us now with more from Kampala. Michael, so why did this happen, and why in Uganda in secrecy?
Today marks a dramatic turnaround in relations between two countries that have historically been bitter foes. It happened in Uganda largely because Yoweri Museveni, Uganda's president, is known to be particularly close with the current Israeli leadership, and he also now enjoys a good relationship with Sudan's de facto leader, General al-Burhan, and Museveni is a man who enjoys to conduct diplomacy in private. He will have taken great joy in conducting this secret meeting, like something out of a spy novel, right under the noses of the press, without anybody being sure in advance that it had happened.
So what does normalising relations actually mean, and why is it happening now?
Normalising relations will mean that the two countries will be able to open diplomatic missions in each other's countries, have embassies, and have their civil servants and diplomats will be able to talk to each other freely. This is part of a longer-term move. For a long time, even under long-time autocrat Omar al-Bashir, Sudan has been making an attempt to move away from international isolation. In particular, moving away from the Iranian sphere of influence and more into the Saudi sphere of influence, Saudi also being a key US ally, just like Israel. And this comes at a time where the new post-revolutionary Sudanese leadership really need an injection of capital urgently into the country so as to secure a transition process towards elections in 2022.
How is moving closer to Israel likely to affect Sudan's current relationships with other countries, both regionally and internationally?
Israel has a key voice in Washington, and if Israel joins the likes of Saudi Arabia in advocating for Sudan's removal from the list of state sponsors of terrorism that Washington keeps, then that will allow capital, trade, aid to flow to Khartoum in a way that's currently prohibited by law. There might also be some short-term gains for the likes of Israel as flights are able to pass safely over Sudan for the first time in a long time, cutting flight times.
Thanks very much, Michael O'Hagan, there for us in Kampala. Look now at some news in brief. A fatal stampede in Western Kenya has cost at least 13 children their lives. More than 40 other people were hurt in a crush caused by panic that broke out as students rushed down a staircase at the end of classes at Kakamega Primary School on Monday afternoon. It's not clear what caused that concern. A dam owner and several government officials are amongst 9 people acquitted over the fatal collapse of the Patel Dam in 2018. The accused were cleared of the manslaughter of 50 people who died in Naivasha when the construction burst its banks after heavy rain, sending a huge deluge of water through nearby farmland. Investigators found the site had been built by unqualified workers and breached regulations. A Cameroonian student living in China is believed to be the first African national to contract coronavirus. The 21-year-old is studying at Yangtze University and is currently being treated in hospital in southern Jingzhou city. It's thought that he contracted the disease whilst visiting Wuhan, the city at the heart of the outbreak that's infected over 17,000 people in China and killed 360. Now, it's been 3 days now that getting around Lagos has been a completely different affair for most people in the Nigerian commercial capital. A ban on the previously ubiquitous motorcycle taxis and rickshaws came in at the start of February. State authorities say that it's to make things safer, but protesters say that the Okadas and the KK are essential to the transport infrastructure relied on by those with less money in a city of 20 million that's renowned for its traffic jams. Sam Olukoya joins me now with more. Sam, how are people getting around Lagos now that the ban has been in force for a couple of days now?
It's been extremely difficult for people to get around Lagos, given that banning the motorcycles and the rickshaws meant a considerable shortfall in terms of means of transportation. The bus stops were extremely crowded today, and actually anger boiled over, and there was protest by commuters that were stranded. Some had to rush for the struggle to get into the few available buses, and some had to trek very long distance to get to their destination. So it's been really, really tough for many people in Lagos who don't have a means of transporting themselves.
The difficulties must have been pretty easy to anticipate. Have the state authorities done anything to try and alleviate that vacuum that would have been left by banning the Okadas and the KK?
Well, they said they were providing 62 buses. I mean, already the state government has hundreds of buses. So if hundreds of buses cannot solve a problem, I don't see how 62 buses would do that trick. In any case, these keke marwas, as they call them, and the motorcycles, they ply the different routes. So it will be difficult to bring in 60-something buses and assume they will be able to save the situation. If they would make any difference, I mean, we will have seen that today. But the fact that we had complete chaos, complete people stranded at bus stops, shows that it's been difficult. Whatever measure the government has put in place definitely did not work.
And what do you think the long-term repercussions will be for this measure?
Well, you can look at long-term implications from two dimensions. From the dimension of transportation, that what we saw, especially today, might continue to replicate itself until such a time you have adequate means of transportation to cater for people in Lagos. But long term, even, I don't see that happening. But the bigger implication is concerning security, crime. These means of transportation have actually removed so many people who are unemployed. I mean, it's a booming business. Everybody have to move around in a city of 20 million. So they have keyed into a sector. I mean, of recent, we even had large companies tapping into this business. So it's a business for everybody. If you're unemployed, get a little money, start your own business. So when you throw thousands of people out of job in a city like Lagos that is battling crime rates, then I mean you are going to worsen the crime situation. In fact, I think yesterday or today I was reading in the papers where somebody said if he's denied his means of livelihood in terms of motorcycle business, he will take up the gun and become an armed robber. And I think that's a reflection of what definitely will happen in Lagos.
Thanks very much. Sam Olukoya there for us in Nigeria. Well, the school of an Ivorian child who died when he tried to steal away on a plane from Ivory Coast to Paris last month is trying to put off his classmates from risking similarly dangerous adventures. Our team in Abidjan sent us this report.
This morning, there's a change in the timetable at this high school. The head teacher is raising students' awareness about the dangers of illegal migration.
Anyone who's still thinking about attempting this kind of adventure, it will lead them to death, despair, and what they're looking for out there is already available to them here. You can stay here and succeed in life.
Harsh words, motivated by the grief of having recently lost a pupil. 14-year-old Laurent Barthélemy died in the undercarriage of a plane that landed in Paris last month. The young stowaway had hoped to make it to Europe. Laurent's head teacher has invited former migrants to come and share their experiences in the hopes of putting others off. Senia Kwangba spent time in Libyan prisons where he was humiliated, tortured, and starved.
For boys, it's better at least, because if a pretty girl goes off, well, they're going to take you into prostitution and lock you up once you're there.
Like many who dream of becoming footballers, he took great risks on his clandestine path to Europe.
I spent 4 days out on the Mediterranean Sea. There were 150 of us, and only 6 of us survived. I'm the only Ivorian still alive. Thank God.
The students are shocked, and the takeaway of the dangers seem to have hit home.
We leave behind all our relatives, brothers and sisters, to go and suffer in Europe. Here we've got food, everything. Even if we do suffer here, we can still be successful without leaving.
It might take more than just the odd awareness-raising session to reverse the trend. In 2018, Ivory Coast had the highest number of people attempting illegal migration of any French-speaking country in Africa.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us. See you again. Take care.